Good morning, comrades. You are listening to WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. This is Good Morning, Comrade. Jeff and Robert
Jeff,
are
you don't
here.
sound too good.
Yeah, because I got COVID.
Oh
It's
my
uh,
God.
it's bad. So 2 weeks into the school year, the first day of the second week on Monday, good old Jeff, tested positive for the novel coronavirus. Can you believe it? The most surprising thing about this to me, honestly, is I survived the entire time, like almost 2.5 years, without getting it, including an entire school year last year. So, like, I feel like I was dodging bullets for a long time. And then as soon as I step out onto the field this year, right, as soon as I step onto the battlefield, just get riddled with them. Oh boy, we lost Robert again. Did we lose Robert? Well, anyway, yeah, old Jeff is sick, and yeah, we'll have to figure it out. What's going on with this? And hello, you there?
Hello. Let's try this. I guess I connected without a VPN.
Okay.
So I'm glad that.
Thanks for doing that live on the air.
So, no, I was spinning. I don't know if you saw me. I got to turn myself down again.
Yeah.
You can
Okay.
still hear me coming through your house. But no, I was spinning. Like
Oh,
we were both our videos were dead
okay. Cool.
on my end anyway.
All right. Well, anyway, yeah. So here we are, Jeff and Robert. We're here. What's up with you, Robert?
Work, terribleness, more computer problems. I'm more focused on you having COVID though. Like, how many times is this for you?
This is the first time I never got it
No
before.
way.
Yeah, totally. Like I
You
was
got blessed
saying,
with COVID once.
I had been, I felt like I was dodging. It's been like 2.5 years, right? I felt like I was dodging
Mm-mm-mm.
bullets for the whole time, just including an entire school year.
You've been around them dirty kids and didn't catch it?
I,
Unbelievable.
I mean, I guess. I mean, I did get really sick in May of last year, of actually May of this year, where to the point where like I missed like 2 weeks school. But I never tested positive for COVID, so it might have been some other kind of flu or something like that. But that was it. Um, I don't know. I was supposed to go to Netroots Nation. I was
I
supposed
know.
to be
I'm
going to
bummed about
Pittsburgh.
that.
Um, Shouts out to Layla, Billy, and Bill who were out there holding it down. They ran the labor caucus out there. They were kind of the crew I was going up there with, and we did some panel. We were gonna do some panels and stuff, but they're up there having a good old time. I was supposed to go up there and sit and see some folks and hold down Radio Row, and the whole thing fell to pieces. It all fell apart. The worst week. I was gonna go somewhere for the first time in like 2 years. And it
You
just
never
fell.
go anywhere.
I never go
You
anywhere.
never go anywhere, my dude. And it got you. I
It
can't
got
believe
me.
it.
I got clapped up by the Rona. It just got me. I wasn't ready.
Mm.
Once you think you have all the questions, I have all the answers, I change the questions.
So I took a test. Like you text me and told me you came up positive. So I took a
Because we were in
test
the
like
studio on Saturday
right.
last week,
Mm-hmm.
and
So I took a test that day when I got home and it came up positive. So I guess having COVID twice and having the vaccine with boosters does work.
wait, it was negative or
Yeah,
positive?
negative. Negative.
Oh,
Did I
you
say
said positive.
positive?
You,
Oh.
I thought you
That's like
said
that old joke. Have you ever heard there was some comic back in like that? He's like, I don't know why they call it HIV
positive.
negative.
Yeah.
Like, isn't it like it's bad to like not to have it? Like, shouldn't it be HIV positive if you don't have it?
Yeah.
Some old corny.
Everyone
I
bumped
can't
us.
remember. Yeah. So I was at my father in law's a couple weeks ago in Philly,
Hmm.
and he was all like, bless his heart. He's just like, hey, do y'all want to watch a comedian? Y'all like, I like stand up comedy, and I'm like, sure, Mike, whatever. And he puts on this guy. This like I can't even think of who he like his name. He has a very Italian name, like straight out of Central Casting. And it was this stand-up special from literally a decade ago. And he had like a rhinestone vest on and tight black jeans. And he was the best way I can describe it. It was so cringy. It was so cringy. It felt like I was watching a bit of a comic doing a 2000s comic, a
Okay.
2010 comic. Like he
So it
was
was
all like,
like
it
maybe
felt
that was
like
what he was going for. Maybe
no,
he was
it
doing the
felt
postmodern thing.
it felt like Chris Kattan from Saturday Night Live was pretending to be a stand-up comic. Like, have you seen that? I want to say Bob Odenkirk only because I've been watching Better Call Saul, but that's not it. Have you seen Tim Heidecker's ironic comedy show where
No, I have not.
he pretends to be an edgy like right wing comic. He pretends to be Jim Brewer, really.
Okay.
So he just comes out. He just makes noises. He's like, he
Oh
goes like
boy.
women, you know, like that kind of thing. It's the most, dude. You should check it. I think it's like on the whole thing's on YouTube.
Dude, comedians have completely
So
lost their
good.
minds. They've gone completely off the rails. Like I don't know. Like you mentioned Jim Brewer a minute ago. Like he's doing like straight up right wing comedy, but like there's no jokes. It's just him like complaining
Yeah,
about women and stuff.
making fart noises.
Yeah, like women, like he just did. It's not
Yeah.
even a joke. Like that's the actual comedy.
We'll have to watch some of that stuff for our like on Twitch when we do our Twitch stream. Oh my god, it's so it makes me cry, and I'll find that comedian too so we can compare him. He was so cringy.
That's even like where and again like Dave Chappelle was like one of the greatest comedians of all time, but like when he starts like complaining about trans people and calling it content, it's just like that's not even comedy, you know?
Oh man, like Dave Chappelle is an interesting case of why just it's better to burn out than to fade away.
Yeah.
Like old Dave Chappelle, if Dave Chappelle, like a T-1000 Terminator, could go back in time or go forward in time, if old Dave Chappelle could go forward in time, he would just punch his old self right in the face.
Yeah.
It was like, how are you this guy? But yeah, it's funny you say that like comedians have lost their mind. Do you think Jim Brewer
Joe Rogan has lost his mind? He's gone like totally off the rails right wing.
That's
now.
the thing, though. I think that a guy like Jim Brewer was never funny.
No, he never was.
He was never funny. What's his claim to fame? He was hanging out with Chappelle and did Half Baked, and he was Goat Boy.
He was Goat Boy on Saturday Night Live. He had like a show. Didn't he have a show on like MTV?
I think everybody had a show at one point.
Yeah, in like the 90s, like everybody had a show on MTV.
Everybody had a show. Like there was a Platypus Man on UPN, and they were just giving stand-up comic shows left and right. I think after that snitch, Tim Allen had success doing Home Improvement. They were just like, oh, we can pay comedians on the cheap, and if one of these shows stick, then we'll be fine.
Yeah. Just get a TV show. Just get a TV show, get made, and then you could be a conservative now. Your audience is automatically changed because you're in the house of millions of people who don't like watch cable and are like using this as their gateway into the world.
I just think it's funny though, because to just go back to what I said or to drive the point home, it kind of sticks in my craw when you say like, oh, people have lost their mind. I'm like, I think that people we're talking about were never funny.
Yeah.
Like, so. I know he's dead, you don't speak ill of the dead or whatever, but like Norm Macdonald was not funny.
Yeah.
Never was. What's his claim to he did Weekend Update, which is the weakest part of Saturday Night Live. And he did the Man Show.
He did do the Man Show with Jimmy Kimmel.
Cool.
No, that was Adam Carolla. That wasn't Norm Macdonald.
Oh, no. Aren't they not the same guys?
Those two guys.
Wait a minute. Are they not the same? I know they're not the same guys, but in my mind, they're the same guys.
That was Adam Carolla.
Oh my God, you're so right. You're so right. So there's Norm Macdonald. I just brought his face up, and then Adam.
Norm Macdonald was in a lot of those Adam Sandler movies. Like he was like one of the stoner friends or whatever in Happy Gilmore.
Norm Macdonald looks just like Adam Carolla.
They're almost the same guy.
They're the same
almost
guy.
The exact same guy.
He faked his death.
He faked his death and like continued his career as Adam Carolla. He was just pulling double duty for too long.
No way. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, y'all who are screaming at the radio, screaming at your iPad, listening to this, going, "What is this idiot talking about?" I'm literally looking at their faces. This is the same person. No way. But yeah, Norm Macdonald wasn't funny either, though. Again, weakest part of the show, Weekend Update.
Yeah.
The weakest part. Like, it just has a trail of just like, Oh, well, what do we do with this guy with a monotone voice? We'll throw him on Weekend Update. Can't
Mhm.
get any worse.
He was better
Hit
than Colin Quinn.
Colin Quinn, the guy who what's his face, who he also lost his mind and they threw him. Remember he had the 1 year gig for Monday Night Football and it was super lame.
Dennis Miller. Oh my
Dennis
God, yeah,
Miller.
Dennis Miller. Like
Now it's like Che Guevara or whatever
Che
for all you
Guevara.
boom. Yeah, like whoever does Weekend Update now, it literally is. It's
Oh,
like
Michael
Michael
Che.
Che. Thank you.
Michael Che, who's like also really annoying on Twitter too.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't follow. I don't follow it.
yeah.
I don't
He
follow
just
that.
like does a lot of like liberal finger waggy stuff.
Oh, so that's where we're at now. They're just
The libs have taken over.
oh,
Saturday Night Live.
so bad. Why isn't that show canceled? Who's watching that?
It's like legacy media.
Cancel
Like it's
that?
uncancelable. Like as long as Lauren McDonald's alive, they're never gonna cancel it because like he's the guy who made it. Like whatever.
Or it could be just a way to like get people to pay for Second City enrollment.
Maybe
Like
it's a
that
recruitment
it's
program.
yeah, it's a hustle. Be like, you could be in the writers' room for Saturday Night Live.
At least it's like an old time hustle, like an old school hustle, as opposed to like NFTs, right? Like at least it's a hustle where there's a service provided.
I mean, I don't want to completely knock it because there was obviously like good people that came through it. You know, Richard Pryor. I mean, just to name, you know, Dean Martin, Martin Short, Chris Rock. Just trying to think of people who are like, no, I'm just thinking Saturday Night Live.
Oh.
Maya Rudolph. It's funny.
Is she funny?
Yeah, she is. She's funny. I like she's funny and a good actress. I like
Chris Rock is the claim to fame. That's
on
the
there
best
right
one.
now. I like Keenan is obviously really cool. And what's her face? Not Molly. Like Molly Shannon's cool, but I'm thinking of the other Molly Shannon. Whatever
The
her
other
name
Molly
is.
Shannon. What does that even mean?
Whatever her name is that's on there now. You know the lady. Let's see. SNL.
I'll never
This is
forget.
great. Yeah, this is great having Google right in front of me when we do this at home.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh, Kate
content.
McKinnon's. I love Kate McKinnon, except that she dated
She was
Barry
the one
Weiss.
that was Hillary, right?
Yeah, no, she was Elizabeth Warren.
She was Hillary too. I think like,
she was
after the
she was both
after the Trump like after Trump got elected in 2016, they had some kind of like tearful like not even trying to be funny, really super cringe like Eye of the Tiger video or something like that. It was really wild.
Well, I used to be really into Kate McKinnon. Like I had a crush on her, even though she's a lesbian. But she also dated Barry Weiss. So you're dead to me. You are super dead to me.
That's a good way to just like burn through any goodwill.
Oh,
go start dating Barry Weiss.
Oh, that just killed my crush. That was never gonna happen.
Did you hear about this like university of like Phoenix, Arizona that Barry Weiss is doing now?
No, please tell me. But I just want to get this off. 80 Bryant. That's who I was thinking of. She has big Molly Shannon energy.
I don't know who that is.
You would know her if you saw her. I'm trying to think of other things she's been in. Let's look at her Wikipedia real quick. But keep that what you're talking about. The I want to talk about Barry Weiss because she sucks a lot. Let's see. What has 80 Bryant been in? She was in Kids? No. I'm trying to think of stuff you'd seen her in.
I don't know who this person is.
She was on Portlandia a lot. She was in Documentary Now.
I've heard of Portlandia. Never
Comedy Bang Bang. I don't know what movie. She was not in Kids, like the Kids that I'm thinking of. There's no way, but she really hasn't been in that much, to be honest. There's no way she was in Kids though. No, because that was 2014. Kids was out in like 2000. No, Kids was like we used to watch that VHS in high school, so that was 1997. That movie was wild. I mean, that movie, if you show kids now that, like, if you show actual kids, they're like, oh, watch Kids. This movie's crazy. Like, people would be, like, kids would be like, what? Like, this is nothing. But back in the day, back in, like, 1997, I remember that movie, there was, like, talk about it. It almost got rated X, like, by the MPAA. Because they thought it was a documentary about, like, crazy New York kids, but it was a movie. It had everybody's indie crush. Not I don't want to say Khloe Kardashian. That's not right. Chloe Sevigny, and
Okay.
then it had who's who's the lady who used to date that liberal jerk in New York?
What liberal jerk? There's a lot of liberal jerks in New
I
York.
know who's the Star Wars lady now.
The Star Wars lady?
Yeah, who was in Rent and also the Star Wars lady.
I don't know who.
She dated the vegan guy from New York.
I got nothing, bro. I got
Dude,
nothing.
you know, come on. This is like we can't go on Match Game. Like we can't go on the Newlywed Game because
I don't know anything.
you suck at reading my mind. What was his name? I want to say Corey Bush, and that's not right, obviously.
Cory Booker?
Cory Booker, yeah.
You're talking about Rosario Dawson.
Yeah, she was like 12 years old in that movie.
Oh,
it's
okay.
real creepy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
creepier.
I remember you told me the story of Rosario Dawson when she was on the Bernie Sanders campaign.
days.
When you saw her just like instantly like
Liberal.
take the black pill.
Oh yeah, because everybody was yelling at her. Like
Can
she
you
had
run that down. Run it down.
Well, so Bernie this is so silly.
This is like 2016, right?
Yeah, so we're at the convention and Bernie's like making his announcement to just you had to be a delegate to be in the room. And so Bernie's like, oh, you know, pretty much I want to
This
thank
is him
everybody.
like saying breaking the news to the crowd.
Yeah, I want to thank
like,
everybody, but
hang out.
obviously if you got on the plane and came here, you might have heard we didn't have the delegates. So I want to thank everybody for showing up, but you knew what a boo. And then Killer Mike is like, hey y'all, just chill for a minute, It was so dumb.
Awesome.
And then Rosario Dawson came out and tried to like be like, okay, we gotta keep fire. Boo.
Boo.
I was like, what did you expect, Bernie? Like that was the dumbest. I don't know what people who came to that could. I don't know. This is one of those things where the left kind of loses its mind. Like we were participating in the democratic process. That is the Democratic Party. Like, what did you think we were gonna do the tennis court convention? No, I'm just saying, did you think that we were gonna do the tennis court convention and like the French Revolution? Did you think we were the Jacobins and we were just gonna all just take over? Like, no, that was never gonna happen. We were coming up there to like be like, oh, this is our guy. We took it this far. You need our votes, Hillary.
Yeah.
So this is a whole block.
Get as much as you can actually leveraged in this entire process, which ended up not being anything.
It actually ended up not being anything, and we got Tim Kaine for a VP pick, which was
Tim Kaine in the membrane.
Well, was wonderful, let me tell you. But no, I had a lot of good times there, and I met Rosario Dawson and Killer Mike, who also turned out to be don't meet your heroes, folks.
Oh, he's bad?
Oh, I hate Killer Mike, dude.
Why do you hate Killer Mike?
So here's my thing with Killer Mike. So listen to Run the Jewels and then listen to his talks when he's not, because you can't even say this is just entertainment. He'll talk about gun ownership. He'll talk about, you gotta be ready because people aren't, police are savages, and we gotta do our own thing, and we gotta prepare for some kind, like there might be a revolutionary action or whatever. And he's talking real greasy. Killer Mike owns businesses in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So as soon as the protests started running up against, when they were burning Atlanta to the ground for the second time righteously, started running up against his barbershop and his barbecue business and all that, he's out there with the mayor going, y'all need to calm down and like let's all hold hands. What we need to do is get your little monies together and open a all black bank.
Oh,
and
no.
I'm like,
he did a show on
dog.
that.
Get out of here with that.
He did a show on that.
Yeah. So as soon as it started to threaten his capital, as soon as the uprising started to threaten his capital, all of a sudden the chain and the fist went away. And Run the Jewel, he was like, no, Run the Jewels is just, that's entertainment. That's fantasy in Minecraft. Run the Jewels in Minecraft, not in real life. I'm like, man, I ain't trying to hear all that, Killer Mike. Get out of here with that. Yeah. So that was silly. I have. It's funny because I know a kid from. I say a kid. We're all old men now, but I know a guy from high school he's a liberal and he's also queer, and we kind of like we don't talk all the time, but we'll post stuff on Facebook back and forth. And I knew each other in high school, and I was like, man, Killer Mike. I was like, that dude's a fraud. That dude's all cap. And he was just like, oh, you, and he posted, he's a liberal. He's like, oh, you didn't know? He's like, you didn't know? He's like, that dude was running game the whole time. He's like, he's really not about this. And I'm like, are you about this? And like, we kind of got it. I'm like, there's hope for you. You're a liberal, but you're okay. You're about this. I'm like, all right. So we got stuff to talk about. But yeah, I'm no fan of Rosario Dawson nor Killer Mike. But
Never
Rosario
even
Dawson
heard of
was
it.
in Kids. It's a real weird movie. Feels like you're watching virtual reality without the glasses. Her being in the Kids is creepier. It's a creepier performance by a child than um what's her face from in the Professional. You know what I'm thinking
Uh,
of.
I can't remember what her name is, but I know what you're talking
Uh,
about.
no, I don't know. Everybody knows. I just can't think of anybody. My brain is so fried from the work
Buddy,
week.
I'm the one that's got COVID. Like you're supposed to be the you're
My
supposed to be
brain is
carrying the show today,
so
man.
for carrying. I can't carry a lunch pail today. I am not of it.
All right, you ready for
Yeah, I want to hear about this.
you ready for University of Austin ATX? This is awesome.
Absolutely.
So this is like a university, like an anti woke. This is from Gawker. I'll just read straight from here. Um,
Natalie Portman. That's what I'm thinking of.
Natalie Portman.
All right.
The
Gawker.
University of Austin, the unaccredited anti-woke university, launched last November via Bari Weiss's Substack, not to be confused with the actual institution of learning at the University of Austin, Texas at Austin, officially has students, approximately 80 of them, working away on their unofficial certificates from June 13th to 24th. So like a 2 week, probably a 10-day program, 11-day program.
Mm-mm.
The school was the brainchild of a small group of centrists, intellectual dark web affiliates, and real time with Bill Maher roundtable regulars, including historian Niall Ferguson, Bari Weiss herself, Atlantic contributor and former American Enterprise Institute president Arthur C. Brooks, Palantir co founder Joe Lonsdale, and evolutionary biologist Heather Hying, who resigned from Evergreen State University in 2017 over her husband's pushback against an equity initiative that led to campus-wide protests. So basically like a bunch of like anti-woke, intellectual dark web freaks, and like Neil Ferguson, who literally basically does like Nazi apologia, in my opinion, in his history, in his sort of like interpretations of history, is is running this like fake unaccredited college that's like teaching the dangerous knowledge of the world. It's incredible. I love it. It's just like it's another. I mean, like we meant. You mentioned the grift of like Second City, the possible grift of Second City for through Saturday Night Live or whatever. Like this is the exact same thing, just like done through academia, or like it's just like
Interesting.
NFTs. You know?
Way to tie the nonsense together.
Yeah. I mean,
Interesting.
yeah.
Can you name any company that's like named itself? You know exactly what's up when you name your company Palantir.
Yeah. It's like you're
Like
evil.
it's like name your company Death Star or I don't know Harkonnen Incorporated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's like your name. It's like chaos from the Get Smart show. Like you're just making your thing sound as evil as possible.
Yeah, that's
You,
Go ahead.
mhm. UATX claims to plans to seek accreditation, but until they are now offering a postgraduate fellowship for the fall. They seem to be planning a quote undergraduate curriculum for some point in the future, which will include a 2-year thesis-like project called interchangeably a North Star or Polaris project. For that, the site suggests students might quote compose a symphony in honor of lost languages or develop a white paper for new cryptocurrency that solves a technological problem in the finance industry.
No, no, no. This is all bad news. This is all bad.
It's all bad news. It's incredible. And like one of the most okay. So here's the. I'm looking at the sort of like founding trustees. You got Pato Canales, the former president of John. This is like some right wing guy. Neil Ferguson, historiker and the Hoover Institution at Stanford. Barry Weiss, Heather Hying, and the Palantir guy. That's who's like coming up with this. I'm like fascinated by this entire thing. Our principles. Our
Mm-mm-mm.
universities devoted to the unfettered pursuit of truth are the cornerstone of a free and flourishing democratic society. For universities to serve their purpose, they must be fully committed to freedom of inquiry, freedom of conscience, and civil discourse. I mean, I don't know about you, but I didn't see any leftists on that. That list of founders. Like, you want to have a full, free, like freedom of inquiry, freedom, like full broad scale analysis here. No, 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 no. That's not the whole point. The point is to pretend that you're doing that, right?
Absolutely.
Forbidden courses. That's what the thing is called. The forbidden courses.
Forbid. Oh, this is the new. This is the intellectual dark web,
This
just
is the intellectual
repackaged.
dark web. Yeah.
Absolutely.
The Forbidden Courses summer program brings together undergraduates to cultivate the habits of civil discourse. In discussion based seminars and practical workshops, students will discuss and debate the most vexing questions of our time. It's awesome.
That's so whack, dude. Um. Yeah. So Barry Weiss sucks. I feel like she kind of threw in her lot with like in the same kind of Jordan Peterson, Milo Yiannopoulos, and I feel like the only person that's come out from that to still do okay from that like internet like you take the intellectual dark web Sinister Six or whatever, and
Yeah.
super villain team Legion of Doom. I think the only person kind of still standing, not that these people are like starving in the street, but the only person that seemed not as a joke by the general public is Joe Rogan. Like
Yeah, he was like
those
one
people
foot in,
laugh.
1 foot out. He was like a facilitator of that stuff. He was
Mm-hmm.
never like a thought leader or anything. He was like the guy. He was the guy that had the platform that entertains these people, if you know what I mean. Like, he's never been like, he wouldn't even say himself that he's like a thought leader or anything. He's just the guy that like gets high and like listens to these people say all their stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah.
I have a story for you that I just thought of off the
Okay.
top of my head. This is breaking news, folks, because we were talking about this at work. So I'll set the stage. This is the Good Morning Comrade Entertainment Corner. Do you watch the streaming shows? Do
What
you
kind of
watch the
streaming shows?
apps? Do you watch the Disney Plus?
I've not watched the Disney Plus in a while.
So
I'm
there's a
behind.
She-Hulk show that aired yesterday.
One of my
Like it
favorite
just
comics.
yeah, me too. I was having this
I
discussion.
used to pick that one up in like the Peter David era and stuff like that. One of the Peter David eras, like
I I was having this discussion with guys at work who are like comic book kind of pop culture guys, the kind of guys that have like Funko Pops, and they're like, on their desk, and I'm like, man, She-Hulk's trash. I don't understand why they want to put that out. It's like
Are you serious?
the liberal like they want to always want to do something feminine or whatever. And I said, man, no, She-Hulk rules, and here's why:
She
is
Hulk's one of the
because
funniest comic book characters of all time.
the idea of what makes her cool is like it's not her powers, it's that she's a big green woman and she can't turn back into like a normal woman like the Hulk can, so she just has to live like that, and she's an attorney,
Yeah.
so that's like her first thing is she has to like find stuff to wear to go to court, and it's like funny, and she fleshes out the rest of the Marvel universe because she makes the Marvel universe seem real, like an actual lived in place. And so she can like be in a lot of places to where like, oh, well, what happens when, you fight the bad guys, but there's a bunch of collateral damage and the city's trying to sue Spider-Man over, fighting in the street with Dr. Octopus, and Spider-Man like destroyed a building,
Yeah.
and he had,
She
who's going to defend him in civil court, and it's going to be
they
She-Hulk
kind of stole the Harvey
or
Birdman
Daredevil.
attorney at law gimmick. Remember that show?
Yeah, absolutely.
They stole that from She-Hulk, essentially. They
Well,
basically took She-Hulk's idea and just put it on like Hanna-Barbera cartoons from the 1930s or 1950s or whatever, right?
yeah, absolutely. No, that's I never thought about that, but I will co-sign on that. I will go to the wall with you on that and say that is accurate. The reason why I'm bringing it up in this context for the show is that so I saw the trailer for this thing and I was like, interesting premise. I like She-Hulk. I hope this is good. This seems written fine. You know, I already have Disney Plus. I'll watch it. But my thing is, why does this look like trash? Like, why does this look already dated? It just the show looks bad, and I mean bad. I mean visually bad, and it looks like they're doing CG from almost a decade ago.
Remember the Hulk movie in like 2002
Like Ang
with
Lee Hulk.
yeah, Ang Lee Hulk, like with just like the really bad CGI. That's what it
Yeah,
kind of looked like.
it kind of looks like that. And my first thought is that it looks bad because you're really putting a CG character. If you're going to do her CG, then you're putting her against a real world background, and then like the uncanny valley steps in because your eyes looking at this thing that your brain knows isn't real, and it breaks down the illusion really quick. And that's what I thought. I was
the
like,
thing with like the Hulk is like he can smash something up really fast and easy. You don't have
yes,
to see any human beings in front of blurs. But, like,
yes,
with
the
She-Hulk,
Hulk's
she has
not
to be
in a
like,
sitcom, which is
Yeah.
what this is. It's a
With
sitcom.
She-Hulk, she has to be like in court, like making a case to a judge with like humans around her.
Yes, yes. So that was my thought of, oh, that's why this looks bad, but it still didn't sit right with me. I was like, this just doesn't. It just doesn't look good at all. It just looks really bad. And I did a little digging, and I found out that the visual effects creators, the people who do the CG, are underpaid and had their work like rushed. They had crunch by Disney, and that's why it looks like trash. And so I'm gonna read you this thing from Polygon. I just pulled something up real quick. She-Hulk's creators and star voice support for visual effects unions over rushed work. She-Hulk star Tatiana Maslany, series creator Jessica Gao, and producer Kat Corio have spoken out about CGI criticisms levied at the show. So I wasn't the only one who thought this, as well as their own concerns over the treatment of visual effects workers. The trio's commitment on the issues came during She-Hulk's panel at the Television Critics Awards Summer Press Tour on Wednesday. The dateline on this is August 3rd, so this was a couple weeks ago. Over the last several weeks, several stories have come out from the visual effects house and their employees accusing Disney of being particularly difficult to work with. According to stories, Disney often creates bidding wars on its projects, driving prices lower thanks to its size and power in the industry. This leads to smaller teams on each project, increasing the demand for working hours. On top of that, Disney also frequently demands changes extremely late in the process, which causes artists to work even worse hours, the anonymous employees say.
That's like a double crunch.
Mm-hmm. And I quote, I feel incredibly differential to how talented these artists are and how quickly they have to work. Obviously, much quicker than should be given to them, Maslany said during the TCA panel. I know there's lots of eyes on the CG and critique or whatever. I do think we have to be super conscious of how work conditions aren't always optimal and that they've made these amazing strides in the industry and the tech. I watch it and I see thoughts. I watch it and I see thoughts. It doesn't look like a cutscene from a video game. And we stand in solidarity with what they say, said Corio. The truth is we work with them, but we're not behind the scenes on these long days and nights. So if they're feeling pressure, we stand with them and we listen to them. In the face of these conditions, many visual effects houses and studios have begun to attempt to unionize, giving artists and employees more collective power to help guide their studios and demand higher, more fair prices from Marvel. It's just a massive undertaking to have a show of this scale where the main character is CG. It's very overwhelming and a ginormous thing to take on. And it's terrible that a lot of artists feel rushed and feel the workload is too massive, Gao said. I think everybody on this panel stands in solidarity with all the workers. It is very pro good working conditions. Nice. Pro union, Maslany said. I can't say her name.
Maisley,
Maslany said.
Maslany.
Yeah. She-Hulk has gotten backlash for its CGI after the release of its trailer so far, including one last month at Marvel's San Diego Comic-Con panel. She-Hulk's release date was also delayed by a day with a quiet announcement on Wednesday that via the official Disney Plus app later for August. So I just thought that was super interesting that I was like, this looks like trash. And there was a good reason it looks like trash. It's because Disney just farms this stuff out like
Yeah.
all these companies do to the video games do this all the time to the lowest possible bidder. And then that company puts the huge crunch on their employees. And so they literally can't perform the renders. They can't go over the renders that they want. And then it comes out looking bad and everybody's home life balance is destroyed and nobody's happy.
Yeah. Um. And yeah, that's really like the other thing too is that like Disney will be like, hey, we pay our workers $15 an hour or whatever. What they don't say is that we contract out with companies that don't. We'll contract out to somewhere in, you know, Malaysia or something like that
Yeah.
that has a worse working conditions than here that will often be a CGI company, startup or whatever. It kind of reminds me of. I mean, maybe it's not fair, but like it kind of reminds me of like when everybody like gets mad about like motherboards being made in China and like having the suicide netting and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Like it's not that different. I mean, the same
No,
contracting out is
that's the
exactly the
thing.
same
Yeah,
thing.
a lot of these tech jobs, especially we had the whole. I mean, I got caught up in it. The whole learn to code craze.
Hmm.
Well, a
Oh,
lot of
you had to
these
learn
tech.
the code phase.
Oh yeah, I was trying to learn C and Python and
Well, that's old
JavaScript.
stuff too, huh?
Yeah, it's like JavaScript, Python, and C++. But yeah, everybody was like, learn to code, learn to code, learn to code. And these jobs at their very best lead to these virtual sweatshops
Hmm.
where you're a code monkey and you're just cranking out code and nobody care like with little to no benefits and you're overworked and you're underpaid and nobody cares about the working conditions
Yeah.
and you're in a sweatshop.
And speaking of, by the way, remember like during that phase when it was everybody like learn to code, you'll make so much money, you're gonna like be set for
Yep.
life if you learn to
Nope.
code. Well, when you start making enough money, when people in America like well, first off you're like flooding the market with workers, right? You're just putting so many workers into that market to the point where they're gonna be fighting. There's not enough jobs for all those people to get the work. And then when you finally do get a little bit of level of organization and the pay starts to tick up, companies start looking at that and is like, oh no 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 no, that's too much of our bottom line. We need to chop those jobs off, ship them away, and all those workers that learned how to code, they did what they were supposed to do, are just like stuck out there with their hands in the air, being
Well,
like, what do we do
that's
now?
even if you're assuming a lot there, Jeff. You're assuming that you even have a job where you're an employee and you're not just doing contract work, where you're
Yeah.
just this you're this digital guy traveling the Dust Bowl,
Hmm.
like just moving from digital job to job,
No, of course, of
doing
course.
contract work with no benefits, no insurance, no nothing.
You get contracted out for one job and then you cut loose and then they keep contacting you back. It's almost like I'm surprised that they didn't have a Uber for coders, honestly. Like companies would just have a Uber where they would just like dial somebody up. They might exist actually, just you know, like a task rabbit for coders or something.
I
I don't
mean,
know.
I'm sure that exists.
Hmm.
It has to. It has to. Where you can just bid. Somebody's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I can do that job," and
Yeah.
it's just coders, software engineers just underbidding each other.
Yeah, just undercutting one another.
Yeah.
It's like a true race to the bottom type thing, and nothing is going to happen with that unless, unfortunately, I mean, it's not unfortunate; it's just the natural thing. You got to get organized on these sorts of things, and like the competition, like what we were talking about there is the whole crabs in a bucket thing. That is literally what the capitalist system incentivizes people to do, to just rip the other one down, to climb over the back of them to get out. And it never happens. You never get out of the bucket. You never get out of the bucket.
No, not at all. again, like, man, I feel so super fortunate to have the job I have. I just can't imagine. I'm not a things happen for a reason guy because that's a really when you start really
Little
exploring
fatalist.
that, that's a dark path to be like
Uh,
no, but just the things that
that means everything
didn't
that's bad happens for a reason.
absolutely, but the things that didn't work out for me, like that loan, like getting swept up into everybody should code garbage. That thank God that didn't work out for me because so many of those people are stuck
Yeah,
because they've dumped so much time and effort and energy into literally learning new languages, and now again it's a race to the bottom in their labor, their super important, super intense labor, which literally touches everything we do. Like
yeah,
we're on three different platforms and trying to do this show away from the studio and literally, and it's all just held together by spaghetti code, man. Like a human being did that.
yeah.
A
It's
human
true.
being put it all together, and those people are not getting paid. They're not getting what's worth. Especially when you've got a lot of these software programs. Like I'm kind of going on a rant here, but and you can be like, well, how much is if I program something and the I'm the selling the soft if somebody programs something for me and I'm selling the software, then I can only pay how much the free market will bear and how my how much I can sell it for. But like a lot of these software programs, a lot of these are cell phones, these quote unquote free apps, free software, they're selling our data, so they're making money off the
Off the consumer.
even the ones that do charge still make money off the front end and the back end. Like I was complaining the other day that my hard drive was acting goofy. So I was just like, okay, I'm just going to install Windows. And I was like, how much can Windows be? $1, $10?
No, it's like $200.
It's like $150.
Yeah,
And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to definitely just download this. And so I just downloaded a copy from an old computer, transferred to my new hard drive, whatever. But the whole time I'm thinking, even if I just went to Best Buy and bought this thing off the shelf, bought the memory stick, Microsoft takes $150 of my money for something that they're going to sell my data from anyway.
yeah,
That's wild. And all that time, there's some coder behind the scenes holding this whole thing together, doing security patches, doing updates. Every time my computer's like, "Hey, we gotta install update," and because we found some new security hole, we got to patch, and your computer's going to shut down in 3 hours, and blah blah blah.
right.
Like
That's
that was
why
a
in my
human.
heart,
That's a human being behind that. Like not getting paid what they're worth.
yeah, that's why in my heart I want to be a Linux nerd, but it just doesn't.
No.
It's not broad reaching enough. But like the idea of Linux does like that hits with me. You know, the fact that it's based on a community and designed to not necessarily run for profit.
Sure, but there's a time to tinker and there's a time where I just
No,
need
you need
things
it to
to
work.
work.
You need it to
And
work.
I just don't want to tinker. So I want to come home. I'm at a stage in my life where I want to come home. I want to press the button and my computer boots, and I
Yeah,
know it's going to boot within. So it's Windows or bust, man.
yeah. Well,
That's my Microsoft commercial. It's Windows or bust.
we tried everything else, man.
Yeah, I know.
Not a hashtag ad. We can't do hashtag ads on the radio.
I just told y'all I pirated Windows. I don't think that's an ad.
Yeah.
I just told y'all
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just literally just stole a copy from the internet and just
Y-
no.
You didn't steal it.
I stole it, which I have no. I have what? Like again, let's talk about this for a second. Let's talk about software piracy for a second. If you're stealing something, there's a whole debate to be had about software piracy and piracy in general. It's like, is it stealing? Is it theft? Do goods actually change hands? Like, how can you steal ones and zeros, digital information, whatever? But going back to like Adobe Suite or Windows, you want to charge me for money and you want to sell my data. You want me to be the consumer and the product. Pick one.
No.
Pick one or the other. If you want me to be the product and you want to give my data away, by all means, go for it. But you need to give me the end user thing for free. I mean, really, you just need to be Facebook. Like Facebook's trash, but like they at least don't charge me to use their platform. Like, I'm not. Again, I don't
They
understand
have
the.
annoying ads. They steal all of your data and all this other stuff. But
But so does Microsoft Windows.
yeah, any
So
app
they're
you use other than like
they're
Signal is
selling your
gonna do
data.
that.
So I don't understand how in your right mind. Again, pick one. Do you want me to be the product, or do you want me to, or do you want me to be the consumer? I'm
Hmm.
not going to be both.
Yeah, there was an article I was looking for not long ago that was talking about the same kind of context, but it was for like WWE. Like, there's an ethical way to watch WWE wrestling, but like the only
Really?
way to do it ethically is to steal it, is to
No,
watch
that's
it illegally.
interesting. I don't understand. Like, how did that logic work? If you can remember it, because
Basically, like giving money to the. I don't really. It doesn't really jive with me necessarily because like I'm not looking for ethical consumption or capitalism.
sure.
Capitalism, if you know what I mean.
I mean, I'm
But
more interested in. I mean, I'll just put you on the spot on something, but I'm more
no, no,
interested in
I
their
brought it up.
defense of it because
Um,
how are you? How am I? If I'm not giving to the, if I'm how am I ethically watching it if I'm not giving money to the company? But then how do they pay their workers at the end of the day?
because they have enough money to do it. The
I understand they
WWE.
have enough money to do it, but they have enough money to do it because people have paid in the past.
Uh huh. Yeah.
So,
I don't have the article in front of me, but that was sort of an argument that was made. I don't
mhm.
even necessarily endorse it. I mean, like I don't care if you're gonna watch like content as long as like
Oh, I definitely don't care. I'm just interested
my
in the
whole thing is
argument.
like don't steal from small content creators is my kind of point.
Mhm.
And like even if somebody like if we had a Patreon and somebody started passing it around, I don't. First off, I don't. If we had like a secret stream or whatever where we would only do it to patrons and like that got out and it got popular or whatever, that's good. Like we would need right now, what we would need is exposure if we wanted this thing to take off. Not
Right.
like the thing we don't before we get anything before we could do any kind of like could do any kind of monetization would be we need to have enough people watching and listening to make that happen.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole debate to be had about that. If you want to talk about that for the last 15 minutes, is that I was actually having this discussion with somebody. So let's say I download a video game,
Mm-hmm.
and if I steal that video game, if I pirate the video game, and I end up like loving it, I end up liking it enough to complete the game, then I think that you've stolen something because you liked it enough to complete it. So you would have purchased that thing if you knew the enjoyment it was going to give you from the get go. So at that point, if you've done that, you should just purchase the retail copy
Which most people would
after
likely
you've
do,
already.
or
I
many
don't
people
think
would likely
most.
do.
I don't think most. I think some. See, this is where it gets tricky
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think most people would do that. I think it's a very small percentage, but I think that small percentage is a group of people who would have never bought the game anyway.
Right.
So now you're talking about you've gotten sales that you wouldn't have gotten anyway without them pirating it.
Correct.
Um,
And plus, they might tell their friend this game's great. That friend
right.
might not feel comfortable stealing or pirating it or whatever. So like there's something to be said about like if
Like I've literally
this
done
is an
that.
old conversation too. Like this goes all the way back to Napster and like
I
Lars
like it
from
though.
Metallica. And the argument that Lars made and like it got kind of like and I don't even agree with him necessarily, but like he got vilified for it. And like I'm not even making the case that he's like a good guy or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But like the case that he made was that like, oh, you're stealing our music, that's our art, and like that's if you're stealing from the record companies, you're stealing from us. And like that's not even true because like they play that stuff on the radio for free, and
It's
like if you can get access to that music, you're more likely to buy it.
it's not true, but the logic is still sound because okay,
You mean the Lars logic?
yeah, it's not true because that's not how people got paid.
Sure.
They didn't get paid in the record industry by how many they got advances, and then the record industry makes the money they can make. They get a contract, that money's gone, it's spent.
Mm-hmm.
And then the record industry's getting the money that they can make off of the record sales.
Right.
Now if they have something where if you sell over whatever, some writer that says if you sell whatever, then if we move, then you get a cut of that. That's here nor there, but
It's a
usually
number so high that only so
the
few people get it.
the artists get a cut. I mean, the artists get an advance straight up, and that's the only money they ever see. That's why they get mad about like getting locked into these multi album deals. That's why Prince changed his name to try to get out of his Sony contract.
Because they
Because
give you this big old bag of money on the front end,
right,
and then they own your ass
right.
on the back end.
So that's technically, so what he said was technically not true. But the point where I think where it's stealing is you went out and you actively looked for that Metallica. And I'm going to say how this is different from video games.
Okay.
You went out and you wanted that awful album, Some Kind of Monster. You wanted that. So you downloaded it. Where if you can say like, and there's already a demo on not online, but on back in the day with the radio. So you know one or two songs in the album already. Mm-hmm. And then even, back in the day, you could go to Sam Goody store or whatever. And a lot of these places would have like a listening station where they would have like the latest releases and you could just listen to them right then and there. So with that being said, you guided your internet connection to BearShare, Napster, Kazaa, whatever, to find that. Yeah, LimeWire.
If you
to
download
find
LinkinPark.exe,
you guided your internet connection to find that BitTorrent because you already knew you wanted it. You already knew what was on there, and you knew you liked it. Now, the reason how that differs with video games, and this is where it gets into like the psyche of the pirater. If you were like, hey, this game is out, I know I want this game. This game looks sick. I just don't want to spend $60 on it. You stole it. Because that is a sale that they would have gotten from you if torrenting piracy did not exist. Now, if you're just like, oh, what is this? This looks okay. I saw a guy play this on Twitch for a couple minutes. Oh, there's a torrent for it. I never thought about it before. I saw a couple minute video for it on Twitch or YouTube or whatever. I never thought about this game before, but I will download this. And if you download it and you loved it and you played it to completion, you've also stolen. And now you should buy it. But if you downloaded the game, just having the file on there on your computer, and let's say you play it for an hour and you go, this is the worst piece of garbage I've ever played in my life, and then you just delete it. Did you steal anything? I say no, because you had no intention of searching that out particularly at any cost. And you're just like, oh, it's free, so I'll give it a run. And you didn't like it enough to where you just deleted the thing. So it's no loss to the company. You would have never bought it. You would have never given it a second thought, and you didn't like it. You didn't even get the enjoyment out of it. So they didn't lose anything. Really, you just played like a long demo for a thing you didn't even like.
I'm less.
But you have to be on. But that's where it comes into the individual person. And this is more of a theoretical, like philosophical conversation to where is that person being honest with themselves?
Well, I'm less interested in that, like that dynamic, and I'm more interested in, okay, you're gonna steal the latest, or you're gonna pirate the latest, Bethesda game, or what's the Assassin's Creed?
Yeah, sure. Ubisoft,
these giant soulless corporations that Sure. If somebody pirates a game, then nobody really cares about it. I have less of a problem with that than somebody like pirating Norco or Night in the Woods or some like small scale indie publisher that is trying to make it, and they could probably, they could use the exposure no matter what. But they would definitely benefit more from purchases of their product and getting more. I don't know.
Well, Gabe Newell,
who the quote unquote victim here matters, is paramount to me as opposed to the consumer experience.
And then there's another philosophy on that in general. That Gabe Newell, the guy who owns Steam, who created Half-Life, he said and he was right, if you give people a more convenient option, then to purchase, they'll just purchase instead of pirate because they're
Yeah,
just being bored. And if you look at things like Game Pass and where you can just pay an amount and you play, a bunch of games for one monthly price, like yeah, piracy of video games is almost non-existent now
yeah, because it's so
because
easy to
games
play
are on
games.
PC, they're so
Or
cheap.
Steam makes things really easy, or whatever.
Yeah.
One of the things that's happening right now is that HBO just like consolidated a bunch of its
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Like it just deleted a bunch of like Sesame Street episodes, or it, like removed it from streaming. It didn't delete it, and part of that like it kind of like cut off a whole chunk of it. A bunch of CW shows or WB shows, I can't remember, but Warner Brothers shows. Um, that's really kind of like gonna increase levels of piracy because you made it more difficult to watch these programs. You made it more
Yeah.
difficult to get this content. So piracy is gonna go up, and unfortunately, what happens after that is policing of piracy goes up as well. Which I mean, again, I don't care if there's
No, I don't care either.
I don't
I
care if
think
there's a stream of WWF wrestling from 1993 running on Twitch 24/7. I don't care, but like I know that when that comes up, like Twitch might eventually use that like YouTube does and have like real time content modding and DMCA and stuff like that, which is
I mean, that's kind of my example
mhm.
to exactly what I'm saying. I don't care. The
I don't
piracy
want them to
itself
police that more is my problem.
the piracy itself doesn't it doesn't interest me. It's the philosophical idea of how you have to be able to claim loss for digital goods, and when I think only the end user can really decide when that loss is. Like, just to wrap up, just take that idea of people streaming old WWF wrestling on Twitch. So if I have no intention ever to buy the WWE network and I'm watching this on Twitch, well, how could I be stealing it? Because there's no loss and I never had an intention to buy it. I'm not going to buy the network. Now, if the network would drop down to a price to where I'd be like, "Oh, I would spend money on this, but I'm still choosing not to." Now I think you could talk about theft, but only the end user can know that for sure.
Mm.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. I just don't care about that.
Yeah, I don't care. No. I'm saying I don't care. It's
Yeah,
just a thought experiment.
yeah,
In the real world, I care less.
yeah,
It's just a thought experiment.
yeah. Well, anyway, one super last thing before we get out of here, and this is just gonna have to be a quick shout out. The Memphis Seven. Are you familiar with the Memphis Seven from Starbucks? There were basically
Yes,
seven
they
people that
walked on
organized
out.
on the job. Well, they got fired. Um, a couple of about a, I
Oh,
want to
this has to
say
be different people. Then this is great because I can't even keep up. People getting
well, okay,
fired,
the Memphis
people
Seven.
walking out. This is great.
They got fired a while ago from their Starbucks job for organizing on the job, and they were ordered to be reinstated by the NLRB or by a federal judge rather. And then as soon as they got reinstated, they just decided to stage a walkout, which is awesome.
Sick. So
So
base.
shouts out to the Memphis Seven. We love you guys. And anything before we get out of here, Robert?
No. Pet your dogs and cats.
Yeah.
Get your animals spayed and neutered.
Get your animals spayed and neutered. Cool. Well, thank you for listening. This has been Good Morning Comrade. You are listening to WHIV LP New Orleans. We love you. Goodbye.